Okay, so we're diving into some seriously impactful stuff today.
We are.
Global policies shaping the future of how businesses operate.
Hmm.
And honestly, you've got a stack of notes on this. I've seen them.
Yeah.
So we're going to cut through the noise and really uncover like the meat of this, the stuff that's actually going to make a difference.
Absolutely.
And we're really lucky to be pulling from Masood Khan's Sustainability Rewired podcast today.
He's a great resource.
He really is.
Yeah.
He has a knack for like bringing this stuff to life, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
So where do we even begin?
Well, I think the interesting thing here is that sustainability, like, it's not just this niche thing anymore. You know what I mean? It's becoming mainstream. It's not just about, like, feeling good or corporate social responsibility. These policies, they're changing the rules of the game.
Yeah. And speaking of which, let's talk about the Paris Agreement for a sec.
Yeah.
I mean, we hear about it all the time.
Yeah.
But you specifically highlighted how it's like woven into business strategy now.
It is.
What's the deal with that?
Well, the Paris Agreement kind of created this domino effect. When you really think about it,
Okay.
investors are now, like, pouring money into companies that have actual solid plans to reduce their carbon footprint.
Really?
Oh, yeah, we're talking trillions of dollars.
Wow.
Shifting towards clean energy, sustainable infrastructure, you name it. And then on the other side, you've got, like, the gas-guzzling industries.
Right.
They're facing a shrinking pool of capital because investors are like, no, we're going to put our money where our values are.
It's like trying to sell typewriters in the age of laptops. The market's moved on.
The market has moved on.
Yeah.
And it's not just investors either.
No.
Consumers are also way more aware now.
That's true.
They're demanding these eco-friendly options. Like, they're actually reading labels and making choices based on this stuff.
Yeah, and that actually reminds me of the next thing on the list.
Okay.
The EU Green Deal.
Yes.
That one feels like a total game changer.
It's hugely ambitious.
huge.
Think of it as like a blueprint for a sustainable European economy.
Okay.
It covers everything.
Wow.
And it has teeth. Like, there are actual strict regulations on everything from energy efficiency to waste management.
So it's not messing around?
Not at all. And here's the kicker.
Okay.
Companies that want access to the EU market, which is massive,
Huge.
they have to comply.
Oh, interesting. So it's not even just about doing business in Europe. It's about...
It sets a global standard.
Yeah.
Because if you're a company, let's say you're a clothing company and you want to sell in the EU,
Right.
suddenly you need to prove where your cotton comes from.
Wow.
Ensure fair wages throughout your entire supply chain.
Uh-huh.
And even figure out how that garment will be recycled or disposed of at the end of its life.
That's a whole different ballgame.
It is.
Yeah.
It's pushing companies to rethink their entire operations. And not just for the European market, but globally.
Globally, yeah. Now, what about these carbon border adjustments? What are those?
Okay, so imagine you're a company that manufactures, like, electronics or something.
Okay.
And you've always sourced cheaper components from a country with maybe, like, more relaxed environmental regulations. With carbon border adjustments, those components could suddenly become way more expensive.
Really?
Because they're going to get slapped with a tariff when they enter a market with stricter emission standards.
So it's like a way to prevent companies from just outsourcing their pollution?
Exactly. It make economic sense to clean up your act rather than get penalized for it later.
Fascinating. Now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals.
Okay.
They feel different. Less about hard and fast rules and more about aspirations, would you say?
Yeah, you could say that. They're more like a set of 17 goals
Okay.
that are all interconnected,
Mm-hmm.
and they're designed to try to achieve a better and more sustainable future for everyone by 2030.
By 2030.
But the interesting thing is,
Yeah.
they're really starting to have an impact on the bottom line for companies.
How so?
Well, consumers, and particularly like younger generations,
Right.
they really want to buy from companies that are actively trying to contribute to solutions, not adding to the world's problems.
Right. So it's like that whole vote with your dollar concept, but like on a global scale.
Exactly. And the SDGs actually give businesses a framework to showcase their efforts. So you can have a food company that's working towards zero hunger
Okay.
by reducing food waste in their operations. Stuff like that really resonates with consumers.
Yeah, totally. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about trade agreements.
Yeah.
This one surprised me. What's the connection between trade agreements and sustainability?
So this is an area that's changing really rapidly. But basically, more and more trade agreements are starting to include clauses that are specifically about promoting environmental protection and social responsibility.
Interesting. So it's not just about tariffs and trade barriers anymore.
No, it's about like recognizing that trade shouldn't be happening at the expense of the planet or people.
Right.
And these clauses can cover things like sustainable fishing practices, combating illegal logging, ensuring fair labor conditions.
That's huge.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's making companies realize they need to actually know what's in these trade agreements because it directly affects how they operate.
Wow. So it seems like all of these policies, from the Paris Agreement to these trade deals,
Yeah,
they're painting a very clear picture. Sustainability is the future of business.
absolutely.
It's not just a trend anymore.
No. And the companies that are really going to thrive, they're not just going to be the ones complying. They're going to be the ones that are using these shifts to drive innovation.
Totally.
They'll see the opportunities in renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, circular economy models, like all that good stuff.
So it's not just about avoiding risk, it's about finding the opportunity.
Exactly. It's about being proactive. And I guess the question for everyone listening is, how will you engage with these evolving rules of the game?
That's a great question.
Are you going to be a passive follower, or are you going to be an active shaper of a more sustainable future?
Lots to think about.
For sure.
Thanks for this.
Absolutely.
This was really insightful,
Glad to be here.
really interesting stuff. And listeners, we'll be back next time with another deep dive.